Louder. Good morning. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me at the back there at the back of the bus? Great. Thank you very much. Welcome to the first Regional Future Health Research and Innovation, or FHRI, Fund Open Day for 2024. My name is Evelyn Quinn. I'm the Executive Director for the Great Southern for WA Country Health Service, which is also known as WACS. I'm also representing the Chief Operating Officer for WACS Rural and would like to extend apologies from him as he's very disappointed he couldn't be here today. His name is John Quinn, no relation. I get that a lot. And he's very passionate about research in health and the incredible outcomes it achieves. I'd like to acknowledge our distinguished guests today, Minister for Medical Research, the Honourable Minister Dawson, Director General, Department of Health, Dr. Shirley Bowen, Chief Executive WA Country Health Service, who is online with us today, Jeffrey Moffat, and Pro Vice Chancellor, Health and Medical Research at UWA, Professor Romola Bucks. Apologies. WACS is proud to co-host this open day with the Office of Medical Research and Innovation and UWA Albany. I'm joined today by Tim Martin as Co-Master of Ceremonies, who is the Director of the University of Western Australia, Albany campus.
Thank you, Evelyn. Proper Benning, and good morning all. My name is Tim Martin, and I am the Director of UWA Albany, leading the University of Western Australia's engagement, teaching and research activity in the Great Southern from our campus here in Kinjarling, Albany. Thank you to everyone who was able to travel today to be with us, and to everyone that's joining us online. I'd like to introduce Lynette Knapp, a Murningar Barduk elder who will welcome us to country. Auntie Lynette grew up on her family traditional country, which stretches west beyond Denmark and east to Israelite Bay. Her connections to country run deep. She participated in the global human DNA study by the University of Copenhagen that found a strong connection between her genetics and her family's creation stories going back 75,000 years. Auntie Lynn has made significant contributions to learning and research here in the Great Southern. She shares her culture and language in formal education settings here at UWA and with the public through the Murningar language courses and yarning circles she leads. With UWA, Auntie Lynette is a research collaborator on the Walking Together project, applying Noongar traditional ecological knowledge to modern natural resource management and co-author of several scientific papers. Please welcome Lynette Knapp.
Proper Benning, Karanga. One you can another word one. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Albany. I'd like to take this opportunity when we speak about what country we come from, our Buddha. I normally like to talk about where I come from. So, to us, the environment is a great big. It's a part of us. We don't own it. We belong to it, and that's because we have two totems, that of a plant and that of an animal. So that makes us a vital cog in the ecological system of Australia. So if you're lucky enough to get someone to tell you a bit more than what I can this morning, go for it. My country, my mother's country, Murningar, or Menang, as you guys know, because someone was too lazy to write Murningar down. It is my mother's country, and that's Albany, and up to the Shirleys and Kirsten, that's river. My father's country comes from Israel, but her country goes all the way to Israel Bay as well. And my father comes from the other side, comes all the way to Israel Bay. From Israel Bay to Albany, the 16 Islands. And we belong to the people of the White Sands, to my father and my mother, and they both belong to the Tallyarak, which is the Blue Mallee. So when you're going along the coastal line at night and you've got the headlights on, you see that sign out as Tallyarak. And it tells me on one country it also sits on the ancient seabed. So we're making great discoveries down Thomas River Way, and I think we're up to 5 or 6 billion years with the fossil at the moment, ready to go deeper. So when I was little, I had meningitis. I survived meningitis, and I was put in the mission. But when I had to go into the hospital, it was my dad that turned up when I got better and took me on. And when the people from the mission went look at me, he said, "No, they're off. He's staying with me." So I was quite lucky that way, and my knowledge comes from him. I used to follow him around and listen to him, or if I had nightmares at night, it was only Dad that sat up and had the smaller kids. But that's a part of our country. We're million of people, and we're part of people also from Dad's side, and they're the people with the 6 digits on their hands and feet, and they own a lot of country, but no one hardly ever saw them. And my family was very similar to looking up that country. But even today, we've got 2 young people that were born with the 6 digits today, in their 20s. So, you know, our knowledge goes a little bit further than that. But thanks for listening, and welcome to this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynette, for that warm welcome. It is our absolute privilege to be here on Menang country with you. For those joining in person, I'll quickly address some housekeeping items. In the case of an emergency, please make your way through the exit that you came in through at the front door here, walk across the street and assemble on the paved area in front of the backpackers. The bathrooms are inside the building, up the ramp and at the end of the passageway. The theme for this event today is Partnerships for Regional Health and Wellbeing. The theme was chosen in recognition of World Mental Health Day earlier this month. This annual day is held to raise awareness of global mental health issues, mobilise efforts to support mental health, and provide an opportunity for researchers and services to connect and raise awareness. Through collaboration, we work towards improving mental health outcomes. As a unique, large and diverse healthcare provider, WACS offers opportunities to be connected to community and work in partnership to embed quality and innovation into everything we do. WACS provides emergency, inpatient, outpatient and community health services, similar to other HSPs in WA. Notably, each year, WACS staff see double the emergency presentations of any metropolitan health service, and only King Edward Memorial Hospital provides more birthing services than WACS, which has 18 planned birthing locations. Sometimes unplanned as well. We don't count those, but they come. While providing these core health services across hundreds of health facilities, we also step in to cover service gaps to provide a safety net for country communities, providing an extensive range of additional health and social services where reliance on other providers is not a viable option. Every day, WACS staff strive to provide exceptional patient-centred care, connecting with local communities where they live and work. At the heart of everything we do is our passion to improve the health of country people by providing them with the best care available and close to home. Here in the Great Southern, like most regional areas, WACS connects with other government and non-government partners to understand and meet the needs of our community. Key partners in health, surprisingly or not, include WA Police, Education, Sports and Recreation, Communities, the Development Commission, Justice, St John Ambulance for All Flying Doctors, WA Primary Health Alliance, just to name a few. And of course, Headspace, Amity and Palmerston who are critical partners in the mental health and disadvantaged space. We're also proud to welcome the Woggle Cape Aboriginal Corporation as a new permanent member of our district leadership group in the Great Southern. Community involvement is of utmost importance, and this is particularly evident when it comes to Aboriginal health research proposals, which are reviewed by our Aboriginal staff and community elders via the Great Southern Aboriginal Health Forum. And this ensures cultural appropriateness and relevance. And they give us fabulous input into how we should go about some of these research proposals, and sometimes they change. Locally, I'm proud of the groundbreaking research and innovative activities being conducted in the Great Southern region, often in partnership with universities such as UWA, which aim to improve the health outcomes across the lifespan of our community. I'll begin with maternity services, where midwife Taryn Sharp is at the forefront, leading research in perinatal telehealth maternity education. The youngest members of our community in Katanning are participating currently in the Babble Boot Camp, which is an early intervention project in speech pathology led by PhD candidate Grace Templeton. And Grace is supported by the FHRI Clinical Researcher Training Scholarship. In the realm of mental health services under Dr. Matthew Coleman's leadership, we delve into critical areas such as emergency department presentations by children, Indigenous patient journeys, and stimulant-related admissions. Our team of occupational therapists, including Michelle Carrington and Lauren Irvine and Anne Herbert, are driving forward innovative practices in upper limb and hand therapy. In clinical trials, Dr. Lloyd Nash has been an early adopter of the teletrial program, alongside Tep Llewellyn and Kerry Harker, to test diabetes-related interventions for foot ulcers and real-time diabetes monitoring. This is such an important piece of work addressing a priority issue for our Aboriginal community in particular. Innovation in dementia care is another cornerstone of our work, and this is led by Dr. Noel Collins and Bronwyn Cutler, through the evaluation of the memory clinic, as well as supporting the sexual health and wellbeing of older adults with dementia in WAC's residential aged care facilities. End-of-life care is extremely important in the Great Southern, and we are proud to have supported the first voluntary assisted dying patient in regional WA. The program now delivers a special care at home for those living in remote areas when required. As you will hear today, Professor Kirsten Auret's research in rural nurse-led palliative care services is building research capacity across the state and setting new standards for end-of-life compassionate care. Together, these projects underscore our commitment to advancing health outcomes at every stage of life. And on that note, I'm going to leave you with a photo of our amazing cancer services nurse practitioner, Paul Young, who we're very proud to say is a finalist in the upcoming WA Health Excellence Awards for the auspicious category of Health Hero. And what makes this so special is that she was nominated by one of her patients. We're really rooting for Karen. Hand you back to Tim. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Evelyn. This year, UWA is celebrating its 25th anniversary of the UWA Albany campus. Over this period, UWA has graduated local students, supported locally led research, and provided infrastructure such as the Rural Clinical School of WA to support professional training in the region that we know makes a difference to retaining employees in regional areas. But for over 111 years, to deliver education and research to advance the prosperity and welfare of the people. UWA has presence across the state from Kununurra to Esperance, and with a strong focus on health and large-scale regionally focused research programs such as the retention of rural doctors in health and significant research on Aboriginal health and wellbeing. The Auret study, optimisation of screening and management of hypoglycemia in pregnancy for rural and remote communities, is a collaborative research project led out of the Rural Clinical School of WA, stretching across the state, including recently work in Katanning and Albany. Now in its 10th year, the project has delivered significant findings to support actions to improve the health and wellbeing of pregnant Aboriginal women. The project co-lead, Dr. Emma Jamieson, is a FHRI Translational Research Fellow, and the project itself is a recipient of the fund. Alongside the research findings, the Auret study also demonstrates how this research activity builds research capacity for clinical staff, adjuncts and students in regional areas. In preparing for today, I reviewed our research publications relating to Albany in health and medical research. UWA academics have completed research locally or with local data on a diverse range of topics, from palliative care through cancer diagnosis and treatment, from amphetamine use and hospital admissions, smoking reduction and health promotion. We'll hear shortly from Professor Kirsten Auret, and I would also like to acknowledge the wider rural clinical school team here in Laing, Albany, particularly Dr. Terry Pecora, who has led and facilitated a wide range of research and evaluation projects and coordinates the Rural Research Unit UWA students enrolled in the RCS complete whilst training regionally. More widely, research at UWA Albany has a strong focus on conservation, ecology and cross-cultural learning. Whilst these projects are focused on the natural sciences, the impact on well-being of both our natural environment and the research process itself is often evident. Participants in a large study on turning gardeners into conservationists using gardens to conserve wildlife, led by Dr. Bronte van Helden, not only evidenced the conversation impact, but also surfaced the positive impact on well-being of participants. The Walking Together project that Auntie Lynette is a part of, is involved in, likewise illustrates the impact research that engages with and values knowledge can have on the health and well-being of regional communities. These intersections of ecology and well-being are areas that we're keen to explore further, and one that Forest Fellow Dr. Kerry is exploring through her research on child. Researching in the regions is not just about delivering outcomes for regional communities. The experience also provides a rich opportunity to research in a community setting where partnerships are critical and often easier to maintain, where communities become engaged stakeholders in the process and the outcome, and where perceived limitations or constraints become learnings and adaptation leads to innovation. Impactful research in the regions requires collaboration, sparks curiosity, and provokes creativity. As we now move into the presentations, I hope this becomes evident and helps illustrate the potential of taking the research into the regions. FHRI Fund Open Days mark the start of each funding cycle. As well as finding out about work being done by successful FHRI recipients, we'll also learn about new programs and initiatives open for applications and recently awarded grants. We have a great lineup for you today, including Professor Kirsten Auret AM, Medical Coordinator of the Rural Clinical School of WA Albany, and Clinical Director of Palliative Care for WACS. We have also UWA Professor and FHRI Distinguished Fellow, Kathy Modecki, Senior Research Fellow with Clinic Kids at the Kids Research Institute, Dr. Gail Alvares, and Ms. Narelle Mullan, Acting Director Research and Innovation, WA Country Health Service, will be joined by Ms. Kerry Harker, Clinical Nurse at Albany Health Campus. And we also have FHRI Advisory Council member, Dr. Marcus Tan, with us today. Dr. Tan is the founder and Executive Chairman of Wellspring Group, a founding director of WA Primary Health Alliance, and the previous founder, CEO and Managing Director of Health Engine, which many of us have used whilst booking our doctor's appointments. We also have the Director General of the Department of Health, Shirley Bowen, with us today, Chief Executive of the WA Country Health Service, Mr. Jeff Moffat, joining online, and Pro-Vice Chancellor Health and Medical Research at WA, Professor Romuald Bucks. But now, I'd like to welcome to the stage the Minister for Medical Research, the Honourable Stephen Dawson, MLC.
Thanks, Tim. Kaya, Nala Kadich, Menang Nunga Buja, Kayan Kadak Buja. Can I acknowledge that we're on the land of the Menang Nunga people today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Can I also acknowledge a number of Professors? I should thank Auntie Lynette for her welcome again. It was lovely to see her. I'll acknowledge Dr. Shirley Bowen, the Director General of the Department of Health, Dr. Marcus Tan, FHRI Fund Advisory Council member, Melissa Vernon, PSM, Executive Director of Strategy and other things at WACS, to UWA Professor Romuald Bucks, who's here too, and to all our distinguished guests and speakers. And it is beautiful to be back in Kinjalling again, a great part of the world. It's very exciting to be here in the regions again for another Future Health Research and Innovation Fund Advisory Open Day. As a regional member of Parliament, I'm very focused on ensuring that people in our regions not only can participate in research, but also can do the research in local communities. A special thank you to the Office of Medical Research and Innovation, Stacey's here and her team, but also to the UWA Albany campus and WA Country Health Service for hosting today's event. As we heard from Evelyn, the theme is Partnerships for Regional Health and Wellbeing, and it highlights how collaboration between metropolitan and regional areas is strengthening Western Australia's healthcare system. Mental health is an essential aspect of overall wellbeing, especially in our regional communities, where the need for robust but also innovative healthcare solutions is ever increasing. And events like today remind us that collaboration and partnerships across both geography and the sector are crucial in creating lasting positive changes. Now, we know that world-leading research and innovation requires continuous and consistent investment and support, and the FHRI Fund, I think, does just that. Since the fund was established in 2020, approximately $185 million has been awarded in grants to over 625 recipients to support health and medical research and innovation in Western Australia. And over the next 4 years, we've got another $250 million available to continue funding more innovative programs, but also initiatives as well. I do want to say congratulations to the recipients who received funding during our previous funding cycle, which equated to more than $12 million across the following 3 programs. They were major research application support, research and innovation impact grants, and innovation fellowships. And this round of funding demonstrates an incredibly high level of talent from our WA researchers. A further 7 programs will be launched today, and Dr. Stacey Waters from Omri will speak about those a little bit later on. Last week, it was a pleasure of mine to celebrate the recipients of our long-running WA Child Research Fund and to announce the ongoing partnership and commitment of a further $16 million with the Telethon Trust to co-fund this program for another 4 years. The Cook Government is committed to ongoing investment in child and adolescent health and medical research to ensure that it does remain a priority for the next 4 years. And the Child Research Fund not only helps fund critical services and life-changing opportunities for sick, disadvantaged and vulnerable children, but it also supports medical research into childhood diseases. And this research really is crucial when it comes to providing Western Australian children with the best quality care now and into the future. I'll also take the opportunity to congratulate Lions Outback Vision, who were announced earlier this month as the winner of the $5 million Pilbara Healthcare Initiative, the Challenge. This is an amazing achievement, and they should be very proud of the work that they have put into the project. As standout innovators, Lions Outback Vision have introduced Australia's first mobile retinal camera with fully integrated AI to screen for eye diseases such as retinopathy and also cataracts. And this solution means that people don't need to travel for treatment, and importantly, that we can catch these issues earlier than ever before for people in the regions. Lions Outback Vision overcame a field of about 93 applicants or entries and 10 finalists to emerge as the winners. And so to all the winners and finalists, congratulations, but particularly to Lions Outback Vision. And maybe Angus Turner might be online from Broome this morning. Angus, if you were there, well done to you and your team. Our government is also working hard to keep WA at the forefront of research and innovation. And this week, I'm pleased to have announced the members of our new FHRI Fund Research Expert Committee. And this committee will advise the Advisory Council on critical current, but also future issues and priorities related to health and medical research in WA. We're incredibly fortunate, as people in this room would know, to have some of WA's leading researchers contributing their knowledge and advice to guide us forward. So we welcome to the committee Professor Sue Fletcher, Professor David Mackay, Professor Britta Regley von Ungern-Sternberg, who I also congratulate for winning the Frank Fenner Prize for Life Scientist of the Year in the Prime Minister's Prize for Science just a few weeks ago, to Professor Asher Bowen, to Dr. Bep Ewink, Mr. Ben Horgan, and Associate Professor Dale Edgar. These appointments followed the successful establishment of our Aboriginal Health Expert Committee. And this committee's already met numerous times this year to provide advice, but also guidance to ensure that Aboriginal health research is funded and focused on community priorities and to achieve the most benefits for Aboriginal people in WA. My focus as Minister is now on establishing a new Innovation Expert Committee, and I'll share a bit more information on this very shortly. Now, as you'll all know, competitive review processes are integral to ensuring that grants awarded from the fund support the highest quality health and medical research and innovation that best serves our community in WA. And Omri is always on the lookout for expert researchers, innovators, and consumers to participate in the grant review process and panels. So if you're interested, please, I encourage you to sign up via the fund's website. Now, part of part of creating an environment in WA where researchers can transform their ideas into reality and make a difference in helping people in the community involves ethics. And so we're very keen to ensure that we have a robust ethics and governance. We have robust ethics and governance processes, and a new central human research ethics model is being established to help streamline and efficiently manage ethical reviews for all research that's undertaken in the WA public health system. Now, work to transition to the new model is underway, and I'm very pleased to advise that the work is already complete for the Department of Health, Royal Perth Hospital, North Metro Mental Health Services, WACS, and Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. The South Metropolitan Ethics Committee transition has also started, and the Child and Adolescent Health Service and the Women and Newborns Health Service will soon follow. And we hope to have all the health services using the new model by early 2025. And this is really about making it easier for researchers to get their ethics and governance approval as quickly as possible so they can get on with doing world-leading, life-changing research here in WA. So the state government is keen to make WA a global hub for invention, research, investment and impact. And with the future of healthcare underpinned by innovation and technology, research is crucial to finding new, but also better ways of delivering healthcare and improving the health of Western Australians wherever they are in the state. WA's future in medical research lies in the partnerships that we build during events like this. And by working together, I've no doubt we'll continue to position our state as a hub of global research and innovation. So again, can I say thank you to those of you who've made the trip down to this beautiful part of the world. To the locals, you know how good it is already. But I look forward to having some great conversations, and of course you'll learn more about the work ahead from Omri. Thanks again.
Thank you, Minister Dawson. Western Australia has produced such incredible health and medical research talent, and it is so important to keep that talent right here, which is exactly what FHRI aims to do. Now it is my great pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Kirsten Auret AM. Professor Auret is a palliative care physician and general physician whose research focuses on advanced care planning, medical education and regional end-of-life care. The first palliative care specialist to live and work outside of Perth, she is passionate about ensuring palliative care provides the best quality of life and a dignified, comfortable death for the patient, while ensuring support and care for the family. An academic in the Rural Clinical School of Western Australia, Professor Auret is committed to growing a robust undergraduate and postgraduate medical teaching environment in rural hospitals. She is now working on a palliative care outcomes collaboration and a project that considers how to increase proactive care planning in aged care settings. Professor Auret also played a key role in our state's voluntary assisted dying legislation as a member of the Ministerial Expert Panel. Please welcome Professor Kirsten Auret.
Hello and welcome to everyone that's visiting our beautiful town. I've been a rural clinical school academic in Albany for 18 years, and I thought I'd use the opportunity of this keynote as we're together in beautiful Conjarling, Albany, focusing on partnering for more vibrant, sustainable and impactful rural health, to share what it's been like for me as a rural clinician researcher. Hopefully sharing my one-person experience and highlighting the organisations that I've partnered with may stimulate some conversations, ideas and new possibilities. So over the years, I've worked in my academic appointment between 0.4 and 0.5 FTE, based on the clinical workload in the region and the required FTE within health, with a real dip academically to about 0.2 FTE during COVID. I split that time about 40% to teaching, 30% to research, 10% to hubs work, which I'll explain later, and about 20% to service and engagement. I'm also a palliative care and internal medicine specialist. As Evelyn mentioned, I was the first physician in WA to move to the country to provide palliative care, becoming one of only a handful of specialists to live regionally at that point. I remain the only regionally based palliative medicine academic outside of Perth. I currently am the clinical director of WA Country Health's palliative care services, and I see patients here in hospice, at the hospital, in people's own homes, and both within the Great Southern and other regions via telehealth. As a researcher, moving to rural work has been challenging for me in many ways. You can see what a jack of all trades I've ended up needing to be, but also very rewarding in others. I guess by the usual metrics I have been successful too, awarded a professoralship at a prestigious university, being awarded over $5 million in grant funding, publishing nearly 60 papers and 6 book chapters, and being cited over 1,100 times. I also supervise a small group of higher degree research students who found me despite the distance. When I started in Perth in my health research career, I definitely loved to utilise all the connections that were so easily available in the corridors of big city hospitals. But looking back, that definitely resulted in a pretty weird collection of first papers, from scary ear-eating yeasts to amphetamine use in cancer-related fatigue, to trying to understand methadone pharmacokinetics in patients who are seriously ill with organ failure at the end of life. However, when I moved to Albany, there was a very small teaching team, no medical research in the Rural Clinical School happening outside of the Kimberley, and considerable inequity of access to healthcare and health workforce here in the Great Southern. So rather than continuing with place-neutral research, I strategically became place-based, working within the local partnerships to teach, explore gaps, and work out solutions. I learnt really quickly that successful research collaborations in rural communities required new attributes from me: trust, flexibility, being hands-on, building capacity, and sharing skills. So let me tell you about the Rural Clinical School, as I know that having an academic home in the Rural Clinical School has been critical to my ongoing engagement in research, and it's been one of the key partners in many of the effective research partnerships here in the Great Southern. The Rural Clinical School was established in 2002 in Kalgoorlie, and in 2007 became the first 2-university rural clinical school in Australia, and then Kirsten joined us in 2019. We're a Commonwealth-funded rural health workforce strategy, and as such our mission is to train future rural doctors and academics to ensure equitable access to high-quality, culturally appropriate healthcare for rural and remote West Australians. The main focus of our work is therefore the medical students, especially those in their second last or penultimate year of our medical schools, and we deliver an entire year's learning in a single rurally focused integrated curriculum at our 15 sites from Kununurra to Esperance. And students sit our assessments at the end of the academic year before most return to their own home universities to complete their last year of studies. And to date, we've graduated over 1,600 doctors. This slide shares with you the wonderful growth we've had in our student cohorts over the years and displays for you the mix of students from UWA, Notre Dame and Curtin. In 2024, we have 112 penultimate students studying with us. Some of those from UWA also elect to do an 18-month rurally based research project with us. This year, I've been very blessed to have 2 students based in Narrabeen and Karratha, assisting me in developing a patient-reported experience tool for community-based, rurally dwelling patients, which is a world first. There are about 140 staff like me across the Rural Clinical School, medical coordinators, which is what we call our teachers, researchers and administrators. Almost all of us working in fractional, sometimes very small fractional appointments, and being connected to the community through our other roles. About 50% of our graduates return to do short-term rural placements, and about 25% return for 5 years or longer. And just as a quick aside, we also deliver a smaller second program that does not receive any Commonwealth funding, but is core to our mission of supporting medical students into rural careers, and that's our final year program, running since 2019 and currently offered to 19 students across 4 locations, including 6 here in Albany, who we are very proud of. And here's the results. 73% of the students who we've supported to remain for 1 more year have taken up rural internships, beginning their medical careers in the country. And so to the hubs I mentioned earlier. This is the 3rd non-research role the Rural Clinical School plays in the rural medical workforce space. I belong to a small team of academics and project officers who focus on the postgraduate space. We connect doctors with professional development and networking opportunities. We provide mentoring, career planning, rural medical training, accreditation and advocacy. We collaborate with health allies to advance rural training pathways, and hopefully we inspire young high school students to choose rural health careers. For my part, most of my work in my hubs role in 2024 has been on this: joining with other rurally based palliative care doctors across Australia with Commonwealth funding to support us, and working with the Royal Australasian College of Physicians to create a new training pathway, the Rural and Remote Institute of Palliative Medicine. We stole that very fancy name from the Sydney Institute of Palliative Medicine. So as Evelyn indicated, my other home is quite a complex beast. Belonging to WACS, however, has been absolutely integral to research, partnerships, productivity and impact. WACS is an organisation with huge reach and responsibilities across the lifespan and into the biggest and smallest rural communities. It took me years to get my head around the complexity of this health service. We are geographically the largest health service in the world, providing care over 2.5 million square kilometres. And I think for me and my work, one significant difference from the metropolitan health service providers is that WACS also provides 600 aged care beds, often as the only provider of local residential aged care for those that live in smaller communities. And here is just a little bit more depth to the complex and beautiful palliative care service I support and lead, which has undertaken a massive transformation since we received increased state funding in 2019. Thank you. As you can see from our summary reports, in the last 6 months of 2023, we looked after over 1,000 palliative care patients and their families in their own homes, and a further 800 who were inpatients. From our 18 hubs, staffed with multidisciplinary teams of nurses, local general practitioners, Aboriginal health liaison workers, social workers and administrative staff, with support from either local or FIFO specialists and an innovative after-hours care model through telehealth via the WACS Command Centre. Improving inequity of access to high-quality palliative care at home for rural people is what drives us. This year, 13% of the people we've looked after are Aboriginal people, compared with just 4% in 2019. There is so much here to deep dive into, but maybe the take-home message for you can be our commitment to patient-reported outcome measures, directing care every day and driving quality improvement. And the hospice I've worked with, mostly pro bono for 18 years, is a community-owned organisation I'm passionate about. It's such a special space, an 8-bed specialist palliative care unit in a purpose-designed building, and it's the last community-run facility like this in Western Australia, and one of only a few left in Australia. Care is delivered by people's own family doctors, and they are nursed by specialist nurses and volunteers. In 2019, the board supported a 2-year investment in a research nurse position with philanthropic funding, which facilitated Albany Community Hospice becoming a recruitment site in the International Impact Rapid program, allowing our small rural hospice to contribute data to larger studies, exploring how best to manage symptom control at the end of life. We have been super recruiters for some of the symptom nodes. Constipation appears to be our category to win. Both the care delivery and the innovation within the organisation resulted in hospice winning the 2021 Perpetual Trophy for Excellence from WA's peak palliative care body. So before I move on to talk a little more about palliative care, I wanted to highlight how living here has led to amazing partnerships to improve health and wellbeing within our community. I wondered which I would focus on, but only briefly, because these are my top two. The Improving Rural Cancer Outcomes program, called Find Cancer Early, led by Professor John Emery, who at the time was a Professor of General Practice at UWA and is now at the University of Melbourne, of which I was the Rural Clinical Chief Investigator, was a hugely important study trying to understand whether points along the symptom appraisal, diagnostic or early treatment pathway could be modified to reduce the urban disparity in cancer outcomes, including mortality. It's on my top two list even now, as for those of you flying home today can check out in the airport loo, our symptom checklists still hang in public toilets throughout the Great Southern, and the Cancer Council has continued our project with ongoing support of the Find Cancer Early website. And the second one for me is the Compassionate Albany Charter, our local embracing of a worldwide public health palliative care movement called Compassionate Communities. The work we have done here has been presented as case studies nationally and internationally, and it continues with the support of the City of Albany, the Primary Health Alliance, and community organisations like Hospice. So, coming to the most central work in my life. I suspect many of you already know what palliative care is, but this is my favourite formal definition. I came to palliative care work after wanting to understand better how to be a doctor to dying people, after my sister-in-law and my close friend died as I finished medical school. It has become a career-long focus as I understand what an amazing difference good, holistic, patient and family-centred care can make when coping with advanced illness and imminent death, not just at the time, but rippling out into the community afterwards, as that loved person's death can be grieved without trauma or regret. Especially as a country person, I feel strongly that palliative care is one of the things that health needs to strive to be excellent at. We all understand, living in rural communities, that not all complex surgery can be done here, and not all health technologies can be available to us. However, most of us want to be at home, with family, on country, in our safe, loved places when we are dying, and having to leave home to receive good palliative care results in such distress and complex bereavement in those left behind. However, even with palliative care as my main skill set, one of the benefits of rural living is the opportunity to work across disciplines with a generalist hat on. This meant that over the years, based on where service need was, I could transfer many of the skills I had from palliative care to provide clinical support in haematology, chemotherapy, inpatient care and aged care. And while there, I could sneak in my research skills to explore other aspects of the care of seriously unwell rural people, outside what would be considered the traditional specialist palliative care boundaries. I did a bad thing. Oh, I'll have it back again now that you fixed it. Thank you so much. So again, I'm just trying to pick a couple of examples of what I mean. A paper from 2020 in partnership with WACS evaluating the impact of new telehealth clinics in haematology at Albany Hospital. And a recently completed very substantive report on end-of-life care and aged care facilities in WA, including rural facilities, delivered in partnership with the Parent Institute and the Department of Health, which have highlighted strengths and gaps in the future directions for WA. So within all the domains of palliative care research, living here has encouraged me to focus in on advanced care planning. It's so important for rural people to have the opportunity to plan what they would like to happen as they get older or sicker. Being transferred to Perth for care with little chance of recovery or return is a dreaded outcome for many rural people who have serious progressive illnesses, but it still happens way too often for those who don't have advanced care planning to guide clinicians and their families to make aligned decisions in the event of them being unable to speak for themselves. I arrived here shortly after the change in legislation that supported advanced health directors and the appointment of enduring powers of guardianship. And this community was ready to partner in figuring out how we could facilitate such conversations with those who may benefit. 17 papers in advanced care planning have resulted, but really importantly, the research has translated into how we do things down here. From this deep understanding, I was able to write the WAC's advanced care planning policy and goals of patient care guidelines, and led the rapid implementation of these guidelines during the COVID pandemic. Gosh, this diagram would have me talking for ages. It was such a powerful finding in one of our early studies from Albany, published in the BMJ Supportive and Palliative Care in 2013, that for many of the people we interviewed, they experienced a distressing imbalance of perceived susceptibility to personal poor health or quality of life outcomes from not being able to complete advanced care planning, while simultaneously being at their most disempowered due to their own health concerns or lack of practical support. We learnt that for those participants who could successfully engage in advanced care planning, there was typically a balance of perceived susceptibility triggering contemplation of advanced care planning and empowerment enabling action. And staying place-based has allowed us to become more nuanced in our understanding, such as this, working with Menang elders to understand how advanced care planning may work best for them, working with local first-generation migrant families about where advanced care planning fits in their culture and family, supported by really wonderful local interpreters, and undertaking focus groups with Great Southern GPs about where advanced care planning processes fit in their workflow and the associated challenges and potential solutions. I did get the 5-minute warning at the back. I just want to say now Tim gave me a couple of his minutes. At this point, I would like to acknowledge Craig Sinclair and Terry Pecora. Craig came to join me in 2010 as a postdoc and stayed 9 years before going on to a more senior position at the University of New South Wales. Finding a way to keep him working with me escalated my productivity, allowed us to bring on research students and mentor many clinicians into rural work, including Aboriginal health workers, nurses and GPs. Craig and I continue to work together, currently having Albany as the only rural site in a national NHMRC-funded advanced care planning study. Terry joined us afterwards, and working part-time has again been that enabler and experienced researcher to keep projects driving forward, supervise students and mentor others. Having that extra layer between early career researchers and senior clinician researchers can be a game changer. This study, a 2014 SHRAC translational grant, just over 200,000, was a patient preference randomised control trial of advanced care planning facilitation led from Albany in partnership with Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. It was published in the BMJ Open in 2017. We recruited 149 participants with severe lung disease, and for those in the intervention arm, study nurses offered facilitated advanced care planning discussions, supported discussions with their families and doctors, and assisted participants to appoint a substitute decision maker and complete an advanced directive. The primary outcome was advanced care uptake at 6 months, along with secondary outcomes including survival, satisfaction with care, quality of life and healthcare utilisation. The quick takeaway, at 6 months, advanced care planning uptake was significantly higher in those allocated to the intervention group than those in usual care. However, what you might find interesting is that the different way the intervention played out based on the systems of care locally and patient preferences. Way more chats, but shorter and repeated, and more commonly in people's homes for those in the rural setting compared with the metropolitan setting. So the point, making sure something works the way it needs to work rurally is an ongoing question. Health interventions may seem like they can be standardised everywhere you live. However, this is just one tiny demonstration of how different models may be needed to be successful in a rural context. And then following on, 2 lovely rural clinical medical students based here for the year worked with us to really deep dive into what made the model successful across the 2 contexts. For us, trusted relationships to overcome gatekeeping and the role of general practice were our key findings. I think I skipped one, sorry. Then my other palliative care research focus, patient-reported outcome measures to drive care and improvement. In 2020, the University of Wollongong asked me to become one of the 3 Australian chief investigators for the Commonwealth-funded Palliative Care Outcomes Collaborative, representing UWA in the Western Zone. That means WA, Northern Territory and South Australia. Peacock works with over 2,000 palliative care services across Australia, embedding assessment tools to identify and manage common symptoms, driving improvement by providing outcome information to services, governments and peak bodies. In WA, we have 28 services in the collaborative, now including all WACS specialist palliative care services. In WA, that means data on nearly 7,000 patients over the first 6 months of 2024 to support our state in understanding who our patients are, who is looking after them, their patterns of decline and their outcomes of care. It's a hugely powerful QI tool and a database accessible for research. At a national level, Peacock is maintaining the longitudinal database of palliative care outcomes for well over 250,000 people dying within Australian hospitals, homes and aged care facilities. And focusing in on WA again, the reach of Peacock is huge, with 1 in 3 patients who've died here of any cause in 2023 contributing to the Peacock dataset. If you are interested, Peacock provides 6 monthly state and national dashboards and reports, which are publicly available through our website. This dashboard is a snapshot of 4,099 patients cared for by all WA specialist palliative care community services over the first 6 months of this year, including a meaningful proportion of rural patients. As you can see, patients are on average in their early 80s. About half have a cancer diagnosis and the other half a non-malignant diagnosis, such as COPD or heart failure. They remain in the community service for an uninterrupted mean of 32 days before death for about a quarter of them, or transfer to a hospital or back to primary care. Many are admitted to community services with moderate to severe symptom distress from pain and fatigue, from which many get good relief. Although the orange bars do indicate outcomes for our community services where we're not quite meeting national benchmarks. And as a closing slide about the great learning from rural partnerships and the many-hatted work of rurally based clinician researchers. As mentioned in 2018, the Minister of Health, then Roger Cook, identified me as a rural end-of-life expert based on my research record, inviting me into the ministerial expert panel on voluntary assisted dying, leading public consultation, and then informing the bill and parliamentary debate. Following that, in partnership with the Albany Community Hospice and the wider community, we supported Albany understanding how our hospice could respond to the new Act within the context of limited rural choices of care location and the risk of loss of community fundraising support. This work has resulted in 3 papers, the last one just about to be submitted, but more importantly made a valuable contribution to the culture of openness and reflection that has characterised the successful implementation of voluntary assisted dying as a practice within our hospice and elevated our small service into a position of national leadership at the palliative care voluntary assisted dying interface. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Your work serves as an important reminder that health is more than addressing issues as they arise, but about supporting patients and families throughout the healthcare system. I'd now like to welcome our next speaker, FHRI Distinguished Fellow, Professor Kathy Modecki. The FHRI Distinguished Fellows program is designed to attract world-class health research to Western Australia or bring them home. And Professor Modecki is an inaugural fellow, moving to WA from the Centre for Mental Health at Griffith University in Queensland in 2023. Although I think the move happened early this year, didn't it? Just happened, yeah. She's currently a professor at the University of Western Australia School of Psychological Science and has an honorary appointment at the Kids Research Institute. Professor Modecki's work tackles the growing youth mental health crisis by investigating the impact of early experiences and social inequalities. The project leverages data from the Origins project and the RAIN study and uses advanced statistical techniques to unravel the elements most impactful to mental health and which adolescents are most impacted. Its findings will be used to develop prevention and treatment options for young people, parents, carers and community. Please welcome Kathy Modecki.
Great. Thanks so much. I'm short, so we got to go lower than that. Okay, thanks. Thanks so much. Great. Well, thanks so much. It's terrific to be here. And just a bit about me, you may be able to tell from my accent, I am not yet a local. I'm working on it. So I'm from the US, actually, where I trained in developmental and community psychology at UVA and the Internet Crimes Against Children Research Center at the University of New Hampshire. I also undertook advanced statistical training through an NIH fellowship at Arizona State University's REACH Center, which is focused on prevention science with very at-risk families. During that time, I undertook a second fellowship at Northwestern, focused on ambulatory assessment methods. So think experience sampling from cell phones, daily cortisol data. Basically, how can we measure kids and family in the wild? More recently, I've been an invited faculty associate at Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society at Harvard, based on my focus on using new technologies to reach at-risk and hard-to-reach youth. So at the same time, I'm not just here to carry out novel and needed science. I'm here because of the tangible pipeline in WA for translating that science back to the community. So my background includes working as a family liaison in rural Alaska with low-income families for early childhood education. I also worked for several years leading court-ordered delinquent youth on wilderness rehabilitation programs for Outward Bound. And so the work I'm undertaking here in WA is equally focused on scientific rigor and this abiding commitment to truly and tangibly improving the lives of young people and families. And this commitment is really, for me, focused on improving young people's pathways in terms of mental health and well-being. So the impact of these disorders on adolescents is really best understood across the life course, from a life course perspective. So meaning not only do most of these disorders escalate or peak during adolescence, but as we see those disorders across the lifespan, their roots are very often laid during the child and adolescent period. So on the x-axis, you're seeing age across development, and on the y-axis, we see loss of equivalent of 1 year of full health. So lots of us in the room and online, we work in health, right? So we can clearly conceptualize that gold standard of 1 year of full health and what it means to lose 1 year of full health. And on the y-axis, that's in thousands. So 1,000 corresponds to 1 million healthy years lost due to burden of disease worldwide. So when we consider loss of healthy years for depressive disorders, for example, this is equivalent to 6.5 million years lost during the periods of 15 to 19 alone, attributable to depressive disorders. And those high levels of loss across middle adulthood, much of those origins, again, have been laid much earlier during childhood and adolescence. Anxiety disorders tend to peak earlier with about 3.1 million years of full health lost, again attributable to this anxiety disorders between ages 15 and 19 on their own.
And as last example, alcohol use disorders. Approximately 1.6 million years of full health lost between ages 15 to 19 alone. And again, I just want to emphasize that x-axis, that vertical axis. Much of these ensuing disorders have their foundational risk onset during adolescence. So narrowing it down here to WA. These are data from over 1,000 adolescents collected from 32 schools across the state, across the SES spectrum, the socioeconomic spectrum. And so we see across depressed mood, coping, alcohol use, there's clear developmental risk. And this risk is very much exacerbated based on the postcode in which these children are residing. So it's not just that the adolescent years are a major risk for mental health. Some pathways are far riskier than others, based on socioeconomic status, rurality, based on early life experiences, intergenerational experiences, and based on the daily life stressors youth are facing during this time. So it's just these type of distinct pathways that my team and I are focusing on within this fellowship. Going from years to days, it's not just over decades and years that matter for mental health. We see daily variation in mental health symptoms, stressors, ability to cope. These vary from day to day, and particularly during adolescence, for those of you who have adolescence or remember your own time, we see great vicissitudes across daily life in these experiences. So to address this, with the team, we leveraged youth reports from smartphones, passive streaming data from teens' phones, to address those day-to-day variations that young people are experiencing in their stress, coping, and associated mental health. So our focus here is on bringing these two pictures together to better address these very distinct pathways of development to understand adolescents' daily and momentary mental health. So just as one example, these are data from 17-year-olds where we individually categorize them across 8 different characterizations of resilience, or else being at risk or vulnerable. And we recently followed them up about 4 years later on their smartphones, looking at their daily experiences. And what we find is based on very specific experiences of resilience, such as being pro-social, even in the context of extreme adversity, we can predict 4 years later actually how they're going to respond to daily stressors and how they're going to recover from those stressors from day to day. So even though this is a shorter term lens, it gives a sense of that predictive power of addressing those distinct pathways for mental health. So the ultimate goal of this work is to marry these two together, to bring these distinct pathways of development over time and marry them to variations in youth experiences from day to day. Together, this is going to leave us poised for dynamic prediction of risk and for personalized intervention. And given a sense of how this links up in WA's priorities and today's theme of regional health, here's just a few examples of how this work matches up with WACS's recent strategic priorities. So addressing these developmental diversity of mental health pathways, that means we're actually using ultimately patient-centered care, and it allows us to truly address disadvantage and inequality across pathways and experiences. By leveraging new technologies, not only to study youth, but ultimately to monitor them from day to day, it means we're truly leading with innovation and technology. And just to highlight on that last point, that a substantial element of this work is also to rigorously characterize and assess the data themselves to address variations, in this case in patterns of findings, allowing us to characterize the robustness of effects based on type and quality of measurement, statistical assumptions, and data quality. So the responsible use of high quality data is at the forefront of this work. This work is not mine alone. I've recently launched my team within the Kids Research Institute, and we're working with exceptional collaborators nationally and internationally. So I began the fellowship less than 6 months ago, having moved here about 7 months ago. And just to give a sense of the momentum we've been able to capture just as we're beginning, we already have 3 international grants under review, including an NIH R01. I have 7 HDR applications going up for 2025 with 3 students already moving interstate to take up research roles. And beyond the scientific contributions, I really want to emphasize our focus on community outreach. So the next 6 months is really gearing up for that intensive outreach. We're truly enthusiastic to partner with youth, parents, schools, and stakeholders. And we're formalizing these advisory and stakeholder panels over these next months. So please do reach out if any of this is of interest. And with that, I will again thank the FHRI Fund for sponsoring this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. That is absolutely fascinating work. I'd now like to invite our next guest speaker, Dr. Gail Alvares, who is joining us online from Perth. Dr. Alvares is a Senior Research Fellow with CliniKids at the Kids Research Institute, and she's led several important mental health projects, including the development of an attention game for autistic children, evaluating outcomes for adolescents and adults diagnosed with autism in childhood, and coordinating a national autism biobank. In 2016, she was selected by ABC's Radio National as one of the top 5 under 40 scientists in Australia for her work. And in 2022, Dr. Alvares received $600,000 in FHRI funding as part of the Translation Fellowship's mental health program for her project, Getting Digital, Transforming Early Anxiety Intervention for Children Diagnosed with Autism. Please welcome Dr. Gail Alvares.
For the opportunity to share a little bit about the fellowship that I received from the fund in 2022, which is the first round of translation fellowships for mental health. I'm a senior researcher at the Kids, and the research project I'm going to share with you really aims to work with the community to develop a digital early anxiety support for children diagnosed with autism. So next slide, please. So before we get started, because as we have just seen with the tech problems, I am not joining you in person. I'd like to acknowledge that the traditional custodians of the lands and waters of Australia in which this research was conducted. So I'm coming to you from Perth on Noongar Whadjuk Budja, and pay our deepest respects to elders past and present for their ongoing wisdom in improving the health and wellbeing of all children. So next slide, please. So my program of work really lies in the intersection between autism and mental health. So we know that we have a lot of funding, services and supports for autistic children and young people in really much needed areas of support, things like language, motor skills, social communication, daily living skills. These are really important things to support children and young people in. However, it's very well recognised that mental health concerns are by and large the largest and most impactful set of co-occurring conditions for autistic children and young people across their lifespan, and these are particularly of concern in the earlier years. So next slide, please. We already know that a large proportion of autistic children will experience clinically significant mental health concerns in their lifetime, but particularly in those early years, specifically anxiety concerns. And we know that more than half of autistic adults will report at least one mental health condition in their lifetime. This is likely to be a conservative estimate, and also this is incredibly elevated relative to the general population. And at the more extreme end, we know that there are really high rates of really significant and really impactful mental health concerns. So, for example, autistic people are much more likely to die by suicide and have a reduced life expectancy as well. And so it's really dire statistics like this, which is the reason why this program of work exists. So next slide, please. So it's in this context that my research program was really developed, and it's really best encapsulated by a paradox that's been coined in the field. And it's this paradox that we know and have known for some time that autistic people have a high chance of developing mental health problems, but a very, very low chance of receiving help, let alone effective help. And there's very many complex reasons for why this paradox exists. There's also some very simple solutions to some of these issues, but tackling this paradox and trying to design effective solutions for this crisis, which is what it's been termed as, is really where I hope our research will be able to make a difference. So next slide, please. So Thank you. So the vision for my program of research is really how we go from coping to thriving. How do we design, evaluate research that really aims to improve the quality of life for autistic children, young people and their families, and reduce known rates of mental health concerns, enabling them to not just cope or manage, but to thrive. So next slide, please. And to do this kind of ambitious research, you actually really need a large team of support to be able to tackle these really intractable problems in the field. And I'm really fortunate that I'm able to conduct this research in such a team. We're known as CliniKids, which is the Kids First clinical service for children diagnosed with autism and their families. We're a research integrated community service that is located in metropolitan Perth. We're a hub for families to receive not just evidence-based community care as part of their usual standard of care, but actually the opportunity to be involved in the latest clinical trials and clinical research, and in that way be able to receive services and access to therapies that they wouldn't get, not just anywhere in Australia, but anywhere in the world. We're a large group of multidisciplinary allied health practitioners as well as researchers. We're spread across 2 sites in metropolitan Perth, but also we have researchers joining us from all around Australia. And the way we've designed our service, families from not just Perth, but all around Western Australia and Australia can access interventions and services. And it's in our team that we are really committed to translating research into practice through both translation and implementation of the research that we're doing. So next slide, please. Now, the specific aims, if you could advance further, please. So the specific aims of my research fellowship that was funded by this funded program was to really work specifically with the community to co-design an adaptation of a program that we've already found some preliminary efficacy for. And this was research that was funded generously by the WA Child Research Fund. So we found some evidence that this program that was delivered to parents could actually really make a very significant impact in reducing anxiety concerns. But initially, from the get-go, we realised that we were only limited in how much we could really see an impact with this work with just our families who could access our clinic in Perth. And the key barrier for this project was really accessibility. We wanted to address the fact that we know that we live in a large state and there are families all across our state who have limited access to evidence-based care. But also we also had families who were located in Perth, but who also still couldn't access our program. We were tackling challenges around child anxiety, and because of their child's anxiety, they were unable to access our service because of limitations in their ability to attend it in a clinic. So we really wanted to fundamentally change the way in which we delivered this program and meet families' needs where they were. So we aim to tackle an accessibility barrier by getting the community's input into this program and how we could design a digital adaptation of this program. And then we wanted to evaluate. So next slide, please. We wanted to evaluate whether the design solution was going to be feasible and acceptable both to clinicians implementing the program as well as acceptable to families as well. So next slide, please. So across this fellowship project, which we're still in the middle of or towards the end of, we wanted to conduct a series of different activities that work to really understand what our community's needs were and then design an appropriate solution. So we conducted some pilot evaluations of what it would look like just to do a simple telehealth, deliver a program online, then a series of iterative community consultations, so really deep and wide kind of consultation across focus groups, workshops, feedback from families, clinicians, and other relevant stakeholders, and a consumer reference group that oversaw the whole body of consultation. And then we didn't know what we would come up with, but in the end, working with a digital health consultant, we actually found that what families really wanted was not a fancy app, not a fancy online module. They really just wanted what was core to the program, which was being able to be in a group of other families facilitated by a therapist and having the opportunity to be able to learn from and share the same journey with families who are also on that same path as them. So we designed an augmented telehealth version with a range of digital resources and community peer networking to be able to support families' engagement with the program. And at the moment, we're towards the tail end of a feasibility trial of this solution. So next slide, please. So I've zoomed through a lot of this just because of time, but I really think that even though we're still midway through this project, the outcomes of this project are really clear. We think that we've very proud of the way that we've worked to make sure that we're along every step of the journey. We've worked with our community, with our families, to really identify what it is that they wanted to see for mental health service delivery, really listening, reflecting on the challenges that families experience when they try and present to mental health services, and the barriers that they face when they do that, and think about the ways in which we can try and reduce some of those barriers in access, and what really research solutions we can design for that. More locally, some of the biggest individual impacts for us as well has been the families from regional Western Australia who've been able to participate. We've had families from all over the Great Southern and Albany, even just in our most recent group of families. So we've been able to really see the impact of this program, not just for our local community in Perth, but broader through Western Australia. And we really hope that the longer term outcomes for this project are really around advancing a more early model of care for supporting the early mental health outcome, the early mental health development of young children diagnosed with autism, and supporting positive mental health outcomes for children and their families. So next slide, please. So the impact of this funding has really been really broad. It's not just been the program that we developed, the significant outcomes that we achieved. It will always be around what is the impact we've had on our community and our families. And by embedding this research through Clinic Kids, we've really been able to translate this research into a practice that can actually show that it can be implemented and widely disseminated. So along the way, we really have been thinking about knowledge translation, the whole as a key consideration. So we've built in training on this program all the way through the many years we've been running this program. We've upskilled local workforce capacity in how to deliver group-based programs effectively online, and also developed capacity to really understand what are the digital infrastructure that's needed to be able to support that. And also continuing to advocate for changes in mental health policy, particularly in how services are funded to support autistic people or people with disability. So next slide, please. So I've really zoomed through this in the interest of time and the tech problems, but please, if you have any questions at all about this research, or if you're interested, please do contact me. And thank you so much for your time and for your patience this morning.
So thank you again, Gail. We really appreciate what you shared, and really looking forward to where you take the project as well and what that will deliver for our communities. I'd now like to welcome to the stage our next speakers, Narelle Mullan and Kathy Harker. Narelle Mullan is the Acting Director of Research and Innovation at the WA Country Health Service. Narelle and her team are supporting WACS to grow their own research and innovation capacity through strong partnerships and internal education programs. And Kerry Harker is a clinical nurse at the Great Southern Aboriginal Health Service. In her early career, Kerry worked in emergency departments and rural and remote nursing before changing to focus on chronic disease management. Since 2022, Kerry has served as a credentialed diabetes nurse educator, providing this essential service at both Amity Health NFP Community Health Service and WACS Great Southern Aboriginal Health in Albany. Ms Mullan and Ms Harker will speak to us about the Teletrials program. Please welcome Narelle and Kerry.
Let's start. Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Got to be a bit closer. Right, good. Thanks, everyone. And today we would also like to respectfully acknowledge the past and present traditional custodians of this land, which we're meeting today, the Menang people. It truly is a privilege to be with you all. So to start with, I really just wanted to set the scene about clinical trials, really, and to highlight that clinical trials really are one way in which our health services can deliver new treatments and new devices and new therapies and interventions. And across Australia, our country patients are missing out on a range of these services. So a part of WAC's commitment to increasing equity in care is that we are establishing a regional clinical trial service. This is allowing us to expand where these clinical trials are based, usually in metropolitan or large tertiary sites, out into regional, rural and remote. And that might be in Perth, or it might be based over in Melbourne or Brisbane, and we want to be able to reach our regional communities. And most importantly, it's going to allow us to reach and lead our own clinical trials eventually. So this is really aligning quite well with a new move for the National Safety and Quality Health Service Standards that is already in place in Australian public hospitals, which is now applying two of their standards that's relating to clinical governance, and the other one relates to partnering with communities, and they're now being applied to clinical trials. So we're really well placed within WACS to support our patient safety and quality team to prepare for this accreditation, which we're really grateful for. So the WA Teletrial program is a part of an Australian teletrial program, and it's supported by the Medical Future Research Fund Infrastructure grant. And what it does is this really acknowledges from the Commonwealth just how much investment and how much time really is needed for a change program this big in a public service. Here in WA, our mission, of course, is always to increase the health and wellbeing of our country patients. And we're doing this in WACS really by delivering place-based clinical trial care, but essentially really supported by a connected central service. And that service that we're setting up is really, we've got a great team that we've collated who have deep expertise really in clinical trial conduct, which is really important. So they've had experience across a range of intervention types. Most importantly, this is not just about medication. So as we've heard from Kirsten this morning and others, it's really important for us to do trials in devices, trials in service change, and trials, trials in devices and software now. So we've got that team in place, and they're also able to support our regional sites in, I guess, right from initial inquiry right through to the trial conduct and through to closeout. And what this means is that we have putting patient safety front and centre with what we're doing, but we are also getting high quality data integrity at every stage. This is so important when we're trying to promote WACS as on the international and global clinical trial stage. So today, we can't go into every trial that we're interested in and all the activities, but I really just wanted to highlight 3 activities that we are able to do with this program. First and foremost, we are listening locally to our supporting departments, in particular pharmacy, who may not have had the experience of managing unapproved medications. So it's so important that our regional pharmacy teams have the confidence and are supported to do so. We are also, of course, giving equal support to pathology and imaging, which are all forming a part of that clinical trial ecosystem. We have a regional clinical advisory group, and we're really pleased that Dr. Lloyd Nash, who gives his apologies today, and Tep Llewellyn are on that advisory group to ensure that we're prioritising trials that are very important to our communities down wherever we go. And most importantly, we've had the opportunity to establish a community reference group. So what we have is, members there who have lived experience. They've either missed out on trials, or their loved ones have, or they've really been inconvenienced and had to travel quite a way to be able to participate. I'm a special mention to Renee, who was unable to come today, but she was really happy to share this quote with everyone. The other activity that we're investing heavily in is digitising the clinical trial infrastructure. So from the get-go, it became quite clear that a lot of the paper-based systems that still exist around clinical trials, that's in terms of managing where our medications go, it's managing consent, it's managing the workflow. It really is not fit for purpose when we're talking about the geographic area that we're trying to cover now. So these digital systems will also include new systems to identify eligible patients for clinical trials. So ideally we'd like to get visibility of that across the entire service, and this will help reduce the bias of who's actually invited to participate in a clinical trial eventually. Our metropolitan colleagues are watching closely as we install and implement all of these digital solutions, knowing that as we move towards an electronic medical record, these lessons will be really important about what can be included and what needs to happen in parallel. And finally, what we are so excited about, of course, which is why we'll hear from Kerry today, is the opportunity for our regional health professionals to get involved. So what we don't want is when they have a line of inquiry and they really want to improve their service, they really want to understand the evidence that will contribute to that improved service, we don't want them to leave our communities. So we are so proud to be able to do that. And on that note, I'll hand over to Kerry. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Narelle. So before I kind of speak directly about the Flash DM trial, I just want to provide a little context around the trial. So we know Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have a higher prevalence of diabetes. They have higher hospital admission rates and poorer health outcomes. With the advancements of new technologies, such as continuous glucose monitoring systems, changing the way we're managing diabetes in a positive way. So the Flash DM trial uses Libre 2 flash sensors, which is a wearable technology that gives the user real-time feedback on how food, exercise, insulin impacts their glucose levels. The user can set alarm limits to let them know if they're going too high or too low. And this device is worn 24 hours a day for 14 days. So it's providing valuable data that can trend glucose levels and show glucose variability. So this is graphically represented to the user on a handheld device or their smartphone, and it's also graphically represented in clinical reports. So it's proving to be a very valuable educational and clinical tool. In Australia at present, these sensors are only funded for people living with type 1 diabetes. And at a cost of $102 per sensor, each sensor lasting 14 days, they're prohibitively expensive for most people living with type 2 diabetes. So for these reasons, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to be involved in this trial, which WA Shirley Trials and Lloyd Nash have been very helpful in getting us on board and get it up and running. So the Flash DM trial is a randomised clinical control trial trying to determine whether the use of Libre 2 sensors are better than standard blood glucose finger pricking in improving glucose levels for Aboriginal people living with type 2 diabetes. The primary outcome measure will be a change in HbA1c values from baseline to 6 months. This is a national trial, so there's 19 sites across Australia. There are 3 in WA, 1 in the Kimberley, 1 in Perth Metro, and now us in the Great Southern, which is fantastic. So I think we're covering off the whole of the state. The recruitment target is 350 participants. Currently, nationally, we have 243 participants have been screened, 175 have been randomised, and 128 have completed the study. I should mention that the study is led by Associate Professor Elif Ekinci and her team at Melbourne University. So research using flash glucose monitors has been done in other communities. Thanks. But this is the first research trial that has been done by Aboriginal people for Aboriginal people. So Aboriginal people have been involved from the initial consultation, the design of the study and the implementation of the study. Aboriginal people hold roles in the study leadership team and as associate investigators across the trial sites. The informed consent video has been developed by the Aboriginal study members. It's a lovely video. I'd love to have shown it here today, but due to time constraints and tech issues, potentially, we couldn't, but it is available to watch via YouTube if you were to search for Flash GM study. It's a 3-minute video. It very succinctly explains the intent and requirements of the trial using appropriate language and graphics. Once the clients are consented and eligible, they're randomised to either standard blood glucose monitoring or Libre sensors. All participants then attend 6 study visits over 6 months with ongoing diabetes education. At the end of the study, those participants that were randomised to standard blood glucose monitoring are provided with 6 months access to Libre sensors, so they're not missing out on the technology. This is the first ever teletrial across 2 rural health services in WA. Our principal investigator, Lloyd Nash, and myself are based here in Albany, Lloyd at the Albany Health Campus and myself at Great Southern Aboriginal Health Services. We also have clinical nurse and diabetes educator Claire Groves and Aboriginal health practitioner Peggy Michael, making up our associate investigator team in Katanning. So just my role as an associate investigator, participant recruitment. We've got our very first participant recruited into the study pictured up there. So participant recruitment, consent, all the patient-facing aspects of the 6 study visits and ongoing diabetes education and support, as well as the data entry. I'm very thankful for the WA Teletrials team and Lloyd Nash facilitating our health services involvement in this trial. Relatively new to research, and Claire Groves is very new in our team in Katanning, so the support from WA Teletrials in initial and ongoing research-related education and support has been fantastic, and it's provided our Great Southern clients the opportunity to access this trial and this technology. So thank you very much. One more thing. I do hope that the outcome of this trial will lead to greater access to Aboriginal clients living with type 2 diabetes to this technology. I also hope it leads to greater involvement of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in future research projects. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Narelle and Kerry. Really great to hear an innovative project and just the depth of community engagement you've brought into that. Congratulations and thank you. I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Dr. Ingrid Laing. Dr. Laing is the CCI Coordinator for the Department of Health, Office of Medical Research and Innovation. Prior to that, she was a UWA Principal Research Fellow specialising in children's lung health and has a special research interest in asthma and why new treatments to prevent asthma attacks in early childhood. Dr. Laing has served on the board of the Thoracic Society of Australia and New Zealand, as well as the Cystic Fibrosis Association of Western Australia, and has an extensive lived experience with lung disease, diabetes, kidney failure, and as a carer of someone with complex medical needs. Please welcome Ingrid.
Thank you for the introduction. I will start by saying during the course of my double lung transplant, my voice was damaged, so it can be a little bit dodgy, so please bear with me. For those online and in the room, you might want to know why I'm presenting today. I'd just like to say it's a privilege to be able to share how WA continues to lead the sector in incorporating the lived experience voice in best practice research and innovation, and in particular the work of the FHRI Fund in reinforcing this. I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of country. I should probably advance my slides. The WA Health Translation Network CCI program, of which I'm a part, acknowledges the Aboriginal people of the many traditional lands and language groups of Western Australia. We acknowledge the wisdom of Aboriginal elders, both past and present, and pay respect to Aboriginal communities of today. I'd like to acknowledge our Welcome to Country today by Lynette. I'd also like to make an acknowledgement of lived experience. We acknowledge the importance and expertise of the lived experience voice of health consumers and carers. We recognise their involvement in making a difference in supporting health research, impacting the health and well-being of our communities. But just to begin, it's important that we all start on the same page with regards to the words that we use when we talk about lived experience in research and innovation. The Australian Health and Research Alliance recommends that consumer and community involvement should be one of the 3 core pillars of expertise for successful medical research and innovation. As you'll see from this slide, these are the current NHMRC definitions of consumers, community and stakeholders, which for anyone applying for a FHRI Fund grant, you need to understand whose lived experience voice you should be incorporating in your application. and inform your best practice research and innovation. In looking at the definitions, you need to understand that there are many ways that consumers are described, and these are just some of the common words used. Overall, consumers are people with a lived experience of a health issue, and you need to be aware of whose lived experience voice you're incorporating in your project. It's also important to recognise the diversity of lived experience and try to make sure that your consumers represent this diversity. This could be making sure that you've captured voices that incorporate regional and remote lived experience. It could be about culture and background. It could be about age and gender diversity, amongst other forms of diversity. In keeping with the theme for the Open Day today, involvement should be a partnership between researchers, innovators and consumers. It should be a side-by-side relationship where consumers are embedded within the research or innovation team. Where people invest in these relationships, their confidence grows in the process and the impact consumer involvement can have on their team. All of these things ensure that you formed a foundation for involving people with the lived experience in your project from its ideation right through to its translation and to impact and outcomes for the community. It's really exciting that WA and the initiatives of the FHRI Fund continue to lead the national research and innovation sector. It's encouraging that at present there's a lot going on at the state and national level in consumer and community involvement, or CCI as it's often referred to. Here's a very quick overview of some of the current initiatives that key people within the WA, whether that's the CCI program of which I'm a part, or specific universities, institutions or consumers are involved with at this level. Of note, with regard to these current projects, there's a deliberate intention to ensure that the development of the new NHMRC Consumer Health Forum Consumer Statement and Guidelines will become the overarching roadmap for CCI and inform the development of the nation's health and medical research strategy. Also of significance is that people are watching WA in how we embed CCI into FHRI Fund grant program guidelines, assessment criteria, grant assessment panels and reporting, as well as looking forward to reduce the barriers of successful CCI. There is an expectation of researchers and innovators that there will be a commitment to CCI when they're applying for FHRI Fund grants. Some of the way these commitments can be demonstrated in a project application is to obtain CCI training. The CCI program provides online and face-to-face courses, as well as tailored guidance and advice when needed. There are also other supports provided around the state by Curtin University, the Kids Research Institute Australia, and the Cancer Council of WA, amongst others, online. This is an example of turning the theory of CCI into practice in a grant application. Oh, hang on, it hasn't gone on. Here we go. This is an example of turning the theory of CCI practice into gold standard CCI in a grant application. Ultimately, the lived experience voice should be embedded from the project ideation right through to the outcomes generated from a research and innovation program. The research question should have been identified by the community as a priority for them. Consumers and community members should have helped design the research project, and we've had some wonderful examples of that spoken about today. The activity summary or the plain language summary should be clear and inclusive. This is the first sign to grant reviewers that you've actually involved consumers in your grant application. And community members should be named team members, not just add-ons. Involvement activities should be clearly described in the budget as well. All sections that are relevant should include consumer and community involvement in grants. So we're seeing more and more demands for consumers to be involved in research and innovation. I just wanted to remind you that sometimes consumers have a lot going on, and just to keep in mind that you need to be respectful of their time and their expertise. Thank you for the opportunity to share and celebrate today. There will be many opportunities still to come. Our program can support this process, so please contact us if you need support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. It is so important to include consumers and communities who will ultimately benefit from health and medical research and innovation at every stage of a project. I'll now welcome FHRI Advisory Council member Dr. Marcus Tan, who joined the Council earlier this year and will announce the newest round of FHRI Fund recipients. Dr. Tan has an impressive resume as an experienced medical doctor, healthcare and technology entrepreneur and company director with more than 25 years of clinical and commercial experience. Dr. Tan was a founding director of WA Primary Health Alliance, or WAFA, and previously served on the Governing Council for the South Metropolitan Area Health Service and the Board and Council of the Australian Medical Association. As the previous founder, CEO and Managing Director of Health Engine, Dr. Tan led Australia's largest online consumer healthcare platform and remains a prominent figure in the Australian technology and innovation ecosystem. Please welcome Dr. Marcus Tan.
Thanks very much, Evelyn. Yep, that's me. Okay. It's been a little while since I've actually been back to Albany, so thank you for having me here. The last time I was here was during COVID, so it's slightly different times. So look, good morning, and thanks for the opportunity for allowing me to speak to you today. Research and innovation is actually a very important thing, and unfortunately some of the focus tends to be on metropolitan areas and some of the stuff that they do there. But clearly there's a lot, and we've heard today, a lot of the achievements that's happened in the regional and remote areas, and I think that's something that's well worth sharing. And so, we actually obviously want to see more of the collaboration and partnership, which is the theme for today, between the city and the country. But certainly there's a lot of great stuff happening here. As Evelyn mentioned, my name is Marcus Tan. I'm speaking to you today about my role and on the Future Health Research Innovation Fund Advisory Council, and I'm also announcing the recipients of the latest round of grant funding. Can I first start by paying respects to the traditional custodians of Western Australia and their continuing connection to the land, water and community, to all members of the Aboriginal community and their cultures, and to elders both past and present. I also want to call out the important role research and innovation can play in closing the gap in health and social inequity faced by many of our First Nations people. Also like to acknowledge somebody I'd call my minister, the Minister of Medical Research, but also the digital economy and all the other hats that he wears across, and that's part of the reason why I see him in so many different events, Minister Dawson. It's actually such a privilege to work with somebody that's so forward-thinking, but also somebody that's so engaged with the community, and that's across all the different hats. So thank you, Stephen, for being here. Which was a surprise, actually. I thought you were going to be online, so well done. The other people I'd like to recognise are Stacey and the people at the Office of Medical Research and Innovation who make this day possible, but also UWA and the WA Country Health Service for hosting us today. And lastly, welcome to everyone online who, including some of my FHRI Fund Advisory Council members, many of whom were hoping to come today, but unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts, couldn't make it. But I know they're certainly here in spirit. And actually, lastly, like to acknowledge Dr. Shirley Bowen, the Director General of Department of Health, who, whilst she's a non-voting member of the Advisory Council, did actually come today, which is great. And I look forward to working with you and Rebecca Brown, who's the DG of JETSI. I'll start by telling you a little bit about the FHRI Fund. So, actually, there's a bit of a controversial subject. At the last open day, there was actually a lot of difference between calling it the FHRI Fund or the FHRI Fund. I've heard a little bit of mutterings about that in the crowd as well. Maybe there's a bit of confusion. I feel it's FHRI only because it's kind of the connotation is with passion, whereas fury sort of connotates anger. I think we're more passionate than angry, so maybe let's stick with FHRI. And also maybe a bit of a trigger warning. I'm going to be saying the words research and innovation a lot today, so please bear with me. Now, the FHRI Fund is a sovereign wealth fund that commenced in 2020 and was created by repurposing the WA Future Fund. As you've heard from Minister Dawson today, the FHRI Fund has awarded around $185 million through 627 grants for research and innovation in that time, with over $250 million still available over the next 4 years. So we're helping to ensure a strong and secure source of funding for researchers and innovators in our state. The objectives of the FHRI Fund comes from the Act, which is actually the WA FHRI Fund Act 2012, and they're actually pretty high-level objectives, but they're pretty important ones. So they're to improve the health and well-being of all Western Australians, to improve the efficiency of the WA health system, increase the economic prosperity of WA, and advance WA's standing as a centre of excellence in health and medical research, innovation and commercialisation. So no small order, okay. Whoops, I've done the wrong thing too. Tim, you're going to have to help me out here. Sorry about that. Ah, perfect. I learn for the best. I learn for the best, Kirsten. Well done. It's nice not to be the only person to be asked for tech support. That's great. Okay. So there are two funding streams from the FHRI Fund. The first is actually health and medical research, which aims to understand health and wellbeing and disease, measure health problems, develop solutions and determine the most effective ways to deliver interventions, policies and programs. And the other stream is health and medical innovation and commercialisation, which aims to apply and commercialise the outputs of research and develop new or improved health policies, systems and services to improve health and wellbeing and patient care. So these lovely people here are my colleagues on the Advisory Council, and they're all experts in their field, which include research, innovation, business, law, finance, corporate governance, and the philanthropic, charitable and not-for-profit sectors. The Advisory Council aims to always have at least one expert in rural, regional and remote health, one expert in Aboriginal health, and one expert in consumer and community health matters. Our role is to develop and recommend to the Minister, which, through consultation with the sector, the strategy and priority goals of the FHRI Fund, which will have the most impact and benefits for WA and contribute to achieving the objectives of the Act. We work closely with OMRI and we work with them to ensure funding programs align with the FHRI Fund strategy and priorities, and they're made available to the sector at each open day, like today. In a nutshell, our purpose is to support WA researchers, innovators and institutions to do creative research and innovation that provides real-world benefits for the WA community. Now, the Advisory Council, just to give you a little bit of sense of what we're doing, it's actually responsible for the overall strategic direction of the fund. And we take advice from the expert committees, including the Aboriginal Expert Committee, the new Research Expert Committee, which Minister Dawson just announced, and a new Innovation Expert Committee, which is in the process of being established. The Advisory Council is also responsible for leading the evaluation of the FHRI Fund scheme, which is currently underway. As Minister Dawson mentioned, it's been around since 2020 and it's time to see how it's going. And I thank those of you who have participated in the consultation to date. The priority of the Advisory Council in the next 12 months is leading the development of a new strategy and priorities to ensure the FHRI Fund is strategically focused over the next 5 years. It's obviously to mostly effectively improve the health and prosperity of WA, enhance the efficiency of the WA health system, and to establish WA as a leader in health and medical research, innovation and commercialisation. Oops. So it's this last aspect around innovation and commercialisation that I've actually been asked to join the Advisory Council, which was only, as was mentioned, really only a few short months ago. And as the newbie to the Advisory Council, I've been asked to share a little bit about myself and my background, although Evelyn's sort of given most of it away. I did my medical undergrad at UWA around 30 years ago, so that was a while ago, qualified as a GP, and I'm still a practicing clinician with a special interest in skin cancer and digital health. Now, I've worn many hats, as has been mentioned, including working as a management consultant, where one of my gigs was helping a biotech company that spun out of Oxford University to do some research and commercialisation work on epigenetic markers for skin cancer diagnosis. I was the principal investigator there. And last year, I stepped back as the CEO of a tech startup I founded around 17 years ago called Health Engine, which, as Evelyn mentioned, pioneered healthcare online bookings in Australia and is a consumer platform used by millions of Australians nationally to get better access to healthcare, including services like telehealth, which has been an important innovation into, obviously, our rural and remote areas. I currently have roles as the entrepreneur in residence for the RAC's Strategic Innovation Studio and Fund called Better Labs. I'm also the chair of SpaceCube, which is a WA-founded social enterprise that supports changemakers, innovators and entrepreneurs nationally through the provision of co-working spaces, community building and educational programs. And I'm an investor and mentor into early stage startups personally and through my role as a venture and limited partner of Purpose Ventures, a $50 million venture capital fund supporting WA entrepreneurs, which also has a substantial carve out for healthcare startups. I'm incredibly honoured and delighted to be asked to be providing my perspective, particularly on the innovation side of the FHRI Fund Advisory Council. It's a perspective informed by my previous experience, notably on the boards and councils of the Telethon Trust, the AMA, the South Metro Governing Council, and the WA Primary Health Alliance, who I believe have got some people in here today, so that's great to see. It's important to note that whilst my experience and focus is likely to be on innovation and commercialisation, this does not in any way betray the regard I personally have, nor diminish the importance of research as part of the FHRI Fund's mandate. Indeed, as someone that is constantly reminding innovators, budding innovators and entrepreneurs that before they try to build and commercialise solutions, they need to really understand the problem they are trying to solve, and particularly important to understand the people who have those problems, which is the CCI aspect of it. This understanding of the problem and potential solution is rooted deeply in good research, which frankly we as a state and nation are very good at, and where I believe we punch above our weight. Where we seem to lose momentum is in the area of translating that great research into market-ready and commercially viable solutions that have the ability to directly impact consumers, clinicians, and the broader WA economy. We're not alone in this regard, as this appears to be a national problem, but it highlights a need to focus some attention and resource on the research that goes from being theoretical to being practically applied and be not just financially sustainable through grants, but something that has a significant commercial potential that could create more jobs and prosperity for Western Australia. Now, I'm incredibly optimistic about the future of health and medical research and innovation in WA. My parting message today and hope is to remind everyone of the old adage that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if we are genuinely looking to make a difference to health and economic outcomes for WA, then it would be crazy to think that doing the same things over and over again will allow us to achieve that. Innovation is thinking, doing and being different, but it also needs to be resourced and supported appropriately to succeed. WA should not be satisfied simply because we're recognised as punching above our weight, which implies we're good at doing more than expected considering our size of population or funding, etc. Let's instead identify those areas we are already world-class in or have a realistic chance of being world-class at and double down on those areas and resourcing them properly. This will require sector-wide collaboration, which is the theme again for today, and the willingness to stay the course by our political and industry leaders when we have turbulence that inevitably comes with backing innovation. So enough about me and off my soapbox. I'd like to make some happy announcements now. So it's my pleasure to now introduce the recipients of this round of FHRI funding. The first one, which actually Minister Dawson actually mentioned, is the winner of the challenge, who he, as he mentioned, was also the $5 million prize that was a collaboration between the FHRI Fund and alongside with BHP and Rio Tinto. And that was won by Lions Outback Vision, so well done to Angus again on that one and his team. I'm actually really excited to see where that project goes. I've seen that from its very early days, so it's great to see the progress that they've made. Just want to tell you a little bit about the next program, which is the Co-Funding Partnerships Program, Research and Innovation Impact Grant, which is a joint program between the FHRI Fund and the Royal Perth Hospital Research Foundation. Now, it aims to fund new research projects that challenge existing paradigms and investigate novel ideas to improve clinical practice. And so I'd like to congratulate, I'm not sure whether people can actually see the screen, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to read everybody's names out on what they did. But so the three recipients there, so congratulations to the recipients of this program. And next up is the Co-Funding Partnerships Program, Early Career Child Health Researcher Fellowships. We love our acronyms, don't we? Okay. Which is a partnership between the Department of Health, the Bright Spark Foundation and the Stan Perrin Charitable Foundation. This program is designed to assist early career researchers to become better qualified, experienced and positioned for seeking longer-term child health research funding through avenues like the NHMRC's Investigator Grants Emerging Leadership Scheme. And also, again, a long list, so that I won't read that out, but congratulations to all those recipients. I'll leave that up just for a second so that people can read it. Oh, gee, sorry about this. Technology, who would have guessed? Okay, the Major Research Application Support Program provides state government co-funding support to competitive research or innovative applications to national or international grant funding programs. It aims to improve WA success rates for eligible health and medical research and innovation grant funding programs and increase the competitive grant income brought into and expended in WA. So congratulations goes to Dr. Miles Murphy, who used the MRS grant to successfully leverage an NHMRC Partnership Projects grant. So well done to him. And finally, the FHRI Fund Innovation Fellowships Program aims to build human capability in health and medical innovation and increase WA's innovation capacity. The program encourages West Australians to enhance their innovation knowledge, skills and experience in conjunction with experts who supervise and mentor them. And so congratulations to the following Innovation Fellows. Again, a great list. Okay, so I'd like to actually just finally take the opportunity to recognise the recipients of the co-funded Department of Health and the Telethon Trust's WA Child Research Fund, who were announced just before the telethon weekend, which was an amazing weekend. Obviously, they raised another record amount. Whilst this is not a FHRI fund program, it's a really special one, and these recipients are doing some incredible work, which is why we want to acknowledge them here today. The WA Child Research Fund funds health and medical research that focuses on the health of West Australian children and adolescents. It also aims to promote the translation of research findings into evidence-based health policy and practice and contribute to integrating research capability across universities, research institutes and health services by encouraging the development of research policy practice clusters. That's quite a mouthful. So congratulations to Shirley Bowen, to a whole bunch of people who got that funding as well. So can I just ask everybody to join me in congratulating everyone who received FHRI funding. Thanks very much, and I'll hand you back to Tim.
Thank you, Dr. Tan, and congratulations again to all of the recipients. I'll now welcome a special guest, Dr. Shirley Bowen. Dr. Bowen is a non-voting member of the FHRI Fund Advisory Council and the Director General of the Department of Health, having stepped into role in April this year. She has a deep knowledge across the health sector with executive experience leading public and private hospitals, research, education and community services. Please welcome Dr. Shirley Bowen.
Thank you, Tim. I just said don't do a long introduction. It's not about me. It's a pleasure to be here on Menang country and recognise the local Aboriginal people and everything they contribute to us. I just wanted to have a small moment to say thank you to the fantastic researchers, clinicians, the Omri team for a fabulous morning. Really interesting to hear everybody's different projects and different passions. But also to say, as Director General, I came into this role to improve health and wellbeing of the people of Western Australia. And I know that each of you are here for that reason as well. So it's really lovely bringing together of everyone. And I was reflecting, partly because of my conversation with Kirsten last night about palliative medicine, on part of my passion comes from early days as an infectious diseases physician. And I will say the great privilege of working as a young doctor, an infectious disease doctor, in the peak of the HIV epidemic. And that experience taught me about the power of working with our patients, our consumers, because they were able to advocate for incredible public health interventions, incredible research, which changed the whole trajectory of HIV. Because now we live with HIV well, and back then it was living and unfortunately dying, sometimes well, sometimes not, with HIV. And it sparked at that time also my passion for palliative medicine and the importance of being able to care with people and help them to die well. So it was just a remarkable time, and I really reflect it has all the elements that really changed so much of that disease, but it's relevant, isn't it, to so much of the disease and suffering that we see, that good partnering, great advocacy, prevention, great new treatments can make such a difference to the outcome of so many diseases, and that's why we're all here today. So on that note, when I came in as Director General, I had many things to do, and I still have many, many things to do in terms of improving access to care, helping our workforce pipeline, digital innovation, public health and prevention, and I could go on and go on. What I actually didn't expect, and it was uninformed of me, I would say, is that older people are part of our new burning platform. So we are seeing that great demographic change. We've been talking about it for 20 years. The silver tsunami, it's coming, and what do you know, it's here. And we have older people, 75 plus, walking into our services every day with very significant, complex chronic diseases. And we are trying to support them, but we haven't really quite thought through it well. So I just wanted to plant the seed for those of you who are already involved in research into older people, models of care, care at home, virtual care, palliative medicine, and how we help older people to have their advanced care directives, be prepared and be supported well to die at home perhaps, or however that goes. But I'm really interested in hearing from everyone on new ideas for caring for older people. Because we have to get it right, and we've got about 2 years to get it right, I'd say, because it's a very big bump in our demography that's really heading towards us. I think the number is we will have double the number of older people, 75 plus by 2033. So we get that huge, we have young people, birth rate's gone down, nobody in the middle here, and then this big bump here. So we just need to be really thinking how research can empower us to do that work better. So just thank you for being here. Thank you especially to Stacey and the team for making it happen. And I will hand back to Evelyn, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bowen, for your inspiration, as always, and insight. Absolutely true. Our final presenter today is Dr. Stacey Waters, Executive Director of Research and Innovation at the Office of Medical Research and Innovation at the Department of Health. Dr. Waters will tell us, gotcha. Dr. Waters will tell us about the new FHRI funding programs that are now open for applications. Please welcome Dr. Stacey Waters.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you all in Albany today. It's not often I'm taller. Absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Albany, for having us. It is it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to get out and visit our regional areas in Western Australia. And may I also join all of our other speakers today in acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I will announce our new funding programs for you. I can see Romola's ready to go to get to the links of the funding programs. But before I do, I would like to just make a couple of other announcements that are really important pieces of our sector as well. So you will have heard through several of our speakers today that we are undertaking a 3-year review of the Future Health Research Innovation Fund. It's of absolute vital importance for us to hear from you, our stakeholders, our sector, your open and honest thoughts around the performance of the fund to date. It will be really important information for Marcus, for Shirley, and all of our advisory council members as we embark on our new strategies. So please take the time, if you haven't already, to go online and complete our stakeholder survey. We'd be really grateful. We also want to reiterate the words of Minister Dawson earlier today and really encourage everyone in our sector to be part of our panel review. The Future Health Research Innovation Fund programs and grant recipients are not decided by the Department of Health. They are decided by panels of experts that we stand up, that is a bespoke panel for every single program we run. So we are always looking for experts who can help us to make the decisions, or who make the decisions on our behalf, to be able to provide the funding that Marcus walked you through today. So please, I encourage you, if you're a consumer, if you're a researcher, if you're an innovator at any career stage, we'd love to hear from you and we'd love to have you part of our panels. And I really thank everyone who has been part of our panels. I know Kathy and I were talking last night. We had some great fun on one of our panels. It's also a great way for you to learn professionally, to actually see how other people write their applications. You can really learn a lot from reading other people's work. So it is a two-way street. May I also encourage you, please, to nominate for NHMRC peer review panels. It is a really important piece of the ecosystem. If we want to have increased success rates for NHMRC and MRFF and other national funding programs, we need to put our money where our mouth is, and we need to nominate to be on those panels. WA is a really important component of our national research and innovation ecosystem, but we have to be at the table. So there is a current call for nominations for 2025 grant funding schemes at the moment, and we really want to make sure that West Australians are at that table and are helping to determine the next winners of NHMRC funding programs. Now, these do close on the 28th of October, so you only have a couple of days, so may I encourage you, please, to get online and join NHMRC panels as well as FHRI panels. And may I also reiterate the words of Minister Dawson earlier today and just remind everyone that our third expert advisory panel, who report directly to our advisory council, has been opened for nominations. We've just announced the members of our Research Expert Committee, and our Innovation Expert Committee nominations do close today. So if you haven't put your nomination in to be part of our Innovation Expert panel, please, I encourage you to do so. It's a wonderful opportunity to feed into the development of new funding programs for the Future Health Research Innovation Fund. Okay, so I'm going to now announce the new funding programs for this October Open Day. And it's really important that Kathy is here with us today as part of our first round of the Future Health Research and Innovation Fund Distinguished Fellows Program. We are opening that program once again. This program is an amazing opportunity to actually have, we might be funding up to 2 experts who will come to Western Australia. They can't be here currently. They might be returning or they may be new. And these are people who we hope to support with a 5-year package to help bring their expertise to Western Australia, to establish themselves in Western Australia and to grow their program of research and the people around them to really innovate and accelerate our ecosystem. These close on the 25th of June next year. Now, that's a long lead time, but we've heard from the first round of funding that we needed to give you more time to be able to work with philanthropic partners to make sure that there is sufficient funding available, because this is a co-funded program, so you do need to bring a portion of the funding from philanthropy. We have allocated between $7.5 million and $9 million to this program. It's a 5-year pot of funding, and you do require that 25%. If we reflect on the conversations we've had today, how incredible would it be to have a distinguished fellow that is based here in the Great Southern that actually might drive and lead regional research and innovation? So planting that seed for our regional colleagues here today, but without disrespecting it and leaving out our metropolitan colleagues as well. So I really do encourage you all to think about this program. Who do you want to bring to WA to really accelerate a program of work? This is your opportunity. The next program I'm announcing is part of our stable of our programs for the Future Health Research Innovation Fund. This is the WA Near Miss Awards for Ideas Grants in 2024-25. So this program is available for people who have submitted an application to the NHMRC Ideas Grants, who were deemed fundable but not funded because you fell slightly outside of the fundable range. we'll be providing grants of up to $100,000 to eligible people who have just fallen short of that NHMRC funding to give you a year to continue that work to make you even more competitive for the future year. This program's actually had some incredible success. It's allowed people who have just missed out on that really prestigious national funding to take that next step. So this program opens again. It closes on the 7th of February 2025. It is aligned with the NHMRC timelines. We have allocated around $2.4 million to this program, and it is for 1 year of funding to help you put in a bigger and better NHMRC application in the future round. In a similar vein, we're also opening our second WA Near Miss program, which is the Emerging Leaders program for 24-25, in exactly the same format. It's for those people who have applied to the NHMRC investigator grants who are deemed fundable but not funded with a score of 4.5 or above. These applications do close somewhat sooner. It's the 13th of December. We have $100,000 available again until our funding runs out, but we will also provide the top 2 ranked applicants based on the NHMRC scoring with a $300,000 fellowship, and that actually just gives you even more opportunity to further your work. Again, this program is about helping to build and make that program of research even better, so that when you resubmit in the next round, you're more likely to receive that prestigious NHMRC funding. We're also reopening today our really successful co-funding partnerships program. Marcus was actually able to announce a couple of those programs today. This is where the FHRI fund partners with another organisation who can bring money to the table. We can effectively double the funding that's available for an existing funding program. So we are calling for organisations or philanthropists or individuals who'd like to match funding with the FHRI fund to create a new bespoke funding program or to extend a funding program that you already have in place. It's about leveraging, it's about making the most of the money that we're putting together to make sure that we don't force our researchers into submitting multiple applications when we can actually join forces and fund more people in a streamlined approach. We can commit between $500,000 and $1 million. The co-funding programs that we open then will be co-badged with the FHRI fund and your organisation, and they're a really fabulous example. I think we've had 5 or 6 co-funding programs now, which has been a huge success for the FHRI fund. So this is an organisational or sorry, my apologies. I could see Sharon whispering. I was wondering why you were... These are applications that are for organisations or people bringing funding to the table to then run a successful funding program. Similarly, we are reopening our Major Research Application Support Program today. Now, this is a funding program that allows you, if you're applying to a major national or international funding program like the NHMRC or the MRFF, you can come to us before you submit and you can seek in-principle matched funding from the FHRI fund. Our success rate in this program has actually been quite incredible, and we've managed to support several NHMRC recipients over the last 12 months who have actually been successful in their NHMRC funding because the state has been able to put up in-principle support at the outset. This program is absolutely aligned to the eligible programs that we have identified. There is a list of eligible programs that are the external programs you can apply to. So if you are planning to apply to any one of these external funding programs, consider coming through us because we can give you matched funding as you submit give you the in-principle support for matched funding. Should your application to the national program be successful, we will then provide you with that matched funding. If a program you are applying for in this next few weeks is not on here, there is also a way of contacting us and having the conversation with us to see if that's a program that we may be able to extend to be part of the eligible list of programs. But it's a rather extensive list of nationally competitive programs that we will co-fund if you are successful. A new program that we're opening today. And as much as we are excited about putting $5 million into a distinguished fellow, I'm equally as excited about this program, which is actually going to provide $25,000 of support. But actually what this program is about is giving you the ability as researchers to access a very small pot of money, but that will allow you to actually engage with consumers and the community before you submit to an FHRI fund program in the future, to have those really important conversations with the community you are working with. So Kirsten could apply for $25,000 to have those really important conversations about the next piece of work that you're looking to submit to either the FHRI fund or a nationally competitive program. Equally, any of our colleagues in the metropolitan area can apply. So these grants will be they'll be open for a short period of time. I think we are closing them on the 18th of December. They are very small pots of money, $25,000. It will allow you to pay for consumers to attend a workshop. It will allow you to pay for travel, for costs, for catering, whatever it is you need to facilitate a conversation with the people you are hoping to work with. I'm super proud of this program. I'm really excited about it. It is the lowest value grant we have offered out of the FHRI fund, but I think probably the single most important program that we've actually run to date. So really excited about this. If there's further information up here, and everything you need to know about this program is also available online. But we're really looking forward to being able to support interaction with our consumers in the development of our programs. And our last program is one of our fan favourites. It's the Innovation Seed Fund for 24-25. This is a program that is one of our most oversubscribed FHRI fund programs we get. The number of applications we receive for this program every year speaks to the need for seeding early stage innovation in Western Australia. This year we've made a slight change. We've actually introduced two categories because it's very difficult for a therapeutic or a vaccine development to compete with a device type application. So we're just separating those out so that we're not comparing apples and oranges. We are adding an element of consistency to our assessment process. This program closes on the 5th of December. We offer grants of between $50,000 to $750,000 depending on your innovation maturity level. The funding is for between 12 and 24 months, and it really is about seeding and taking that innovation to the next stage. We do seed innovation between innovation maturity level 3 and 7, so we do span quite a range of readiness in terms of innovation. But this is an incredible pot of money that is available to really kickstart your innovation, and some of the most incredible innovations that we can see in WA have been supported through the Innovation Seed Fund. So they're the programs that the FHRI Fund is opening today. I wish you all the very best in your applications. We do have another open day coming up in only 6 weeks, very sorry team, in December to coincide with West Tech Fest. We'll be opening a range more programs at that point in time, and really encourage you to attend that event if you can, in person or online. But for those people who've made the journey down here to Albany today, thank you so much. It means the world to us. It's so important for us to make sure that we come to you and we make sure that you understand and recognise that the FHRI Fund is for all Western Australians, and we're here to help and support. So thank you very much for coming today, for the opportunity to launch our new programs, and I'll hand back to our hosts.
Thank you, Stacey. A lot of exciting opportunities there, including that new one. Thank you. Congratulations to all the FHRI funding recipients that we heard about today, and good luck to everyone applying to these new programs that we've just launched. I'd like to again thank all of our speakers today. You've certainly inspired us with your creativity and vision. We look forward to seeing what you will do in the future, including Kirsten. I'll hand you back now to Tim, who will close. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you very much for everyone who has attended today, from my team in particular, my colleagues from Perth and from Albany. There's a lot of familiar faces in the room that I work with daily, and we really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. And again, thanks to everyone who's attended today in person and those that have been able to join us online. And we wish applicants the best with the next round that's coming too. In terms of things, I think just a couple of key points that stood out to me from the presentations this morning. We've heard about a really diverse range of projects that illustrate the real potential of the fund, of what it can do. And the diversity of opportunity impact that this fund provides, represents, and the impact it delivers to our communities. But I think one of the other things that stood out today too is the breadth of opportunity regionally based or engaged research can deliver as well, and the critical need that this represents for our communities too, both in terms of the outputs that research will deliver, but I think what we've heard too about the actual process too, that engaged conversations, the localised adaptation that's been delivered through local research too is a key part of the process. So again, we'd like to thank you very much for your time today and wish you the best with the next stage of funding up around. For those in the room, we invite you to join us for a light lunch back in the seminar room. And again, thank you all very much. Good afternoon.